Welcome to Saving the World One Craft at a Time. My name is Rachel Morey. I serve as pastor at Brooklyn Mosaic, which is a brand new church start here in the area, whose focus is on serving particularly youth in crisis and youth who are experiencing homelessness. One thing we've discovered as a congregation is that the more that we can make use of what we already have at home to solve the needs and problems of our home, the more generous we can be with the community around us, particularly the kids that we are serving. So we have begun celebrating our crafters, and because crafting at its most basic essence is really problem solving for the home. So I'd like to introduce our crafter today, Amanda Metzler. That's Amanda.
Hello.
And she's sporting the orange gear.
Yes.
And Amanda, yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
Yes.
It is a beautiful thing. So I wonder if you could speak to, when did you start crafting as really problem solving for life and the home?
Well, just last night I had this like flashback to 7th grade dance, and it was a Valentine dance, and I happen to love dances, and I really wanted to be Valentine-y. Well, I didn't have any heart-shaped shirts or, hearts on them, so I had a red shirt, and I had construction paper, and I knew how to cut out hearts, so I actually taped hearts to my red shirt and wore them to the dance, feeling very cool, and they did all fall off, but I had lots of fun, and yeah, that was the first moment I remember solving a problem that I had with the materials I had at hand.
Yep, box checked.
Yes.
Hearts checked.
Yes.
Take that. That's
Yes.
your ticket in.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so much, Amanda, for being with us today. Today, Amanda will be sharing with us a way to help solve those storage issues we have in the home, where the storage space that you have is a very odd shape. So those plastic containers that you get from a department store may not necessarily fit. So what are ways that we can, using materials we already have, address some of these issues, and how can we fit those wonky little spaces where there's no plastic container ever that could possibly fit? Mm-hmm. So Amanda, I wonder if you could speak a little bit to the issue that brought you to the craft that you're going to demonstrate.
Yes, well, we have 3 kids, and I'm always rearranging the rooms to accommodate their toys, and so I had this extra nightstand that had this wonderful drawer on wheels. I'm like, this is great. It'll work well for the kids. And I ended up having the puzzles down here, those board puzzles, the wood ones, the big pieces, and I could stack them in there, but it was so deep that, we'd be reaching back there. The kids weren't really playing with them. It just wasn't accessible to them. And so I was like, well, I actually really need another drawer if I want to make this thing as useful as it could be. And so I considered going and trying to find something that would fit, and that just seemed like I didn't want to put the effort, and I didn't even think I'd be able to find it. And so one night I'm in their bedroom, bedtime, there's an extra empty diaper box around, and I'm like, well, maybe I could tape this diaper box to a different size to make it fit, and that's where it all began. That's
where it all began.
Yes.
But it's not where it ended, so you're going to
Yes.
show us today how that happened.
Yes.
All right, so take us apart step by step how this works for us. What do you start with? What are your materials?
All right, well, first you start with a cardboard box, and you want to take a look at the space you're trying to fit and find something that find a box that is a little bit bigger than that space, so that you have cardboard to toy with, or you can have 2 boxes that you're going to cut up and tape together. Obviously this one is too small for this. This is just my example that I'll be working on, but I ended up using one box and then pieces from it to fit this size. So box first.
Okay.
Then I did not want to go buy materials, and I just had this fabric that I wasn't going to sew with. I was like, but not for any of my craft projects, but I thought, oh yeah, it would look decorative and it would fit into a kid's room. So I made sure I had about enough to cover the box, plus a third is a good amount to have. I was going to go use the method of cutting into strips, because that's how I had always done, this decoupaging. And so got your fabric. And then, I don't mean to do product placement, but Mod Podge is a great product or something like it because it is a glue, it's a sealer, and it's also is a finish to it. You can use regular, Elmer's glue. You would add water to that.
Or the old paper mache flour and water mix,
but then
whatever that would be.
Most likely need a sealer to keep from flaking, especially with the flour. I've had plenty of experience with that kind of stuff. So, and scissors. Well, I have scissors for cutting the box. Maybe you have box cutters at home.
Which do you recommend, scissors or box cutters?
Well, scissors or box cutters would probably be safer. Maybe a little would be easier on your hand, but I wasn't going to go by that. And this worked fine as long as you're just keeping track of where your fingers are.
Oh, and we're using what we already have,
yes,
right?
Yes. And then for cutting the fabric, a pair of really sharp scissors, or you could use pinking shears, which do triangles or like little bubble shapes that keep the fabric from fraying. And then, so step one then is to prepare your surface. That's another thing. So you want to make sure you got newspaper and then of course something to hold your glue while you're working on your project.
Excellent. So we've identified the spot that we want to create a storage unit for.
Yes.
And we've identified a box that's about the right size for it. So what do we do once we have the box in the space?
All right, well, first I'm gonna put this down because we don't need that now. So I have a space that will fit, this is too long for the space, so I want it to be shorter, and it actually is going to fit really well, the 8.5, so that's my plan for it, to go on my desk in the back, and it's going to be narrow enough to not take up a whole lot of desk space. All right, so the first, get your box, you then measure your space, figure out, what the dimensions are going to be. And this is the part where it's hard for me to tell you how to be exact because it is a matter of looking at the pieces that you have and how you're going to put it together, and it takes a little, try this, doesn't quite work. Try something else.
And it also depends on how frequently you'll be using the storage too. So if it's out and placed here, then it's out and you can access it. But if it's a drawer like you made there, then you have to have different considerations, put a little more space on the side.
Yes. And so take that all into consideration, draw your lines, and get a cutting. So now this one I told you that I need it shorter because I want it to be just hold about a 3.5. And I'm just going to go in and cut down.
I'd offer to help, but it looks like you got this.
Yes,
Excellent.
and let me tell you, after I spent my 20 minutes, or I don't know how long it took to put that box together, I did have sore fingers from my cutting. I was very pleased with myself though, and and amazed that I was able to kind of fashion that together. Now, I do want to note that my goal with this was to make a piece, get it done, and have something that looked relatively decent. There are more things that can be done to be more precise, to make maybe some steps easier, but it might take longer. My goal was to keep moving, and so that's what I'm going to show you. But I will talk about some of the things you can do to be more precise or, make things a little easier. All right, so I cut that out and I need an end, and I'm just going to use that. And look at that, that fits perfect. This is all part of just kind of messing with the cardboard, seeing what works. This is going to be fine to have a bend because between the tape and the glue, it will be strong enough. And you won't see the bend.
Okay, and what kind of tape are we using here?
Ooh, yes, that's right. The packing tape. I'm using packing tape because that's what I had, and because it's strong and relatively easy to work with. Comes with the cutter already on it, so it's good enough for me. And I'm just going to tape all the corners. And I do want to do a good job of taping so that I can get the shape that I want out of this box. Because once you have your shape,
it all falls into place.
Right. The decoupage is not going to alter that really much. So you want to make sure that you get the shape you want.
So this is the place to make sure that you've really got the size and the
Yes.
shape of storage unit you want.
Yes.
Don't wait until after the decoupage
Right.
piece to make that happen.
Exactly.
So do you tape up every corner or just the ones that have gaps?
Well, I would say every corner, because what I was going to tell you next is to take out little tabs in there that are extra so that the inside can be a smooth surface. So since in this case putting papers in, it won't get caught on the edge there. I'm going to take that out, but then that's going to take out some of the stability. So yes, I will be adding tape to this, and that will be every corner where there's a cut or where the stability was taken out. And so this, I'm just going to rip it out, see how that works, because it'll be pretty hard to get the scissors in. Good enough for me. I'm all about let's keep it going.
We're problem-solving crafters.
Yes.
We're not decorative crafters in this room.
Yes. And so get that last one taped, and then I will check to see if I like it. Will that work? It will work.
It will work. Lovely. So this became your desk for a minute.
Yes.
There. Okay.
Yes.
Marvelous. All right. So great dimensions, taped up.
Yes.
What's our next step? What do we do next?
All right. Next step is the fabric.
And it looks like you've already got some on here. So tell me about that.
Well, I was starting to experiment. I cut straight edges, and I got some fraying, and I'm like, oh, what to do with that? Then I went to using the pinking shears. I also did not intend to do this, but I actually put one on there backwards, and so that reminded me that what I need to do during the gluing process, that I need to keep track of the front side. And yeah, so this was my beginning of it. So with the fabric, fraying is most likely a problem. Whether you have a scrap from a sewing stash or you have an old shirt that you're going to use. Now, and I would recommend a lighter weight, because it's going to be less glue and easier to work with, certainly easier to cut. If you have a thicker fabric, it's going to add more texture for sure. It's going to take more glue. And that's not what I'm about. I'm about
what can we do with less? Also, because it's cotton, it makes a very nice, superhero cape if you are saving the world one craft at a time. So let's move on. Show me how this works.
All right. Well, I'm going to show you with the pinking shears what to do for cutting a strip, because that has an extra step. If you're just going to do straight, you just go psh, go on, cut down.
How is that again? Psh.
Yeah, exactly.
And do you use that sound effect? Is that important? Okay,
yes.
Good.
While you're doing it's your working music.
Okay.
And I'm not super detail oriented, so I didn't care if my lines were not that straight. I kind of eyeballed it, and in fact this one is mostly straight, good enough for me. And I am just gonna, again, eyeball about how wide I want it. And with the pinking shears, the bubbles are pointing out. If I cut this way, they're gonna be pointing a different way. So I gotta turn around, and I am going to then cut. That's about the width I want. Periodically I'm gonna fold it over to kind of check that the width is about the same. Because with the gluing, some imperfections will be hidden. It won't matter. It will add to the project to have variances in how you do it. And so I'm going to keep cutting.
So you cut the whole strip out, and then you cut it into smaller strips, because I can see that these are shorter than that.
Yes. And another thing to know is to cut out all your fabric that you're going to need for your whole project, just to have it done, just so that you're in this cutting groove. You're remembering, with pinking shears I need to do this, and then you have it all done too, because when your hands are all glued and you run out of fabric, you don't want to take time. I would not want to take time to go wash my hands, cut more fabric out. Plus then you can, you know, make sure that you'll have enough when you do that. All right, and one more note with these pinking shears, then once I get my one strip cut, if I want to go cut another strip, as you can see here, that's not the look I want, so I will have to go and cut a thin line down just to get the edge that I want again. And so I am sad to be wasting that much fabric, but I just let it go.
So we have this over here. I see you brought some examples of other ways that this could look.
Yes, so I chose short strips for my project here. This one was actually, oddly enough, a combination of triangles and squares. It adds more texture. They were smaller, so it took longer, a little longer to do.
But you can be a bit more haphazard too, by the look of it. Boop, 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 boop. Yep.
And
all right, and then there's this one.
This one I actually really liked. I'm like, why didn't I think about this sooner? Just alternated the strips. I wanted this fabric on top. It's just an example of a way you can think about what look do you want for your space and how to go about it. So plan stuff like this beforehand. This, smack it on there, make sure you cover all the spaces. This you need to plan.
And this?
This one is strips. This one is representative of the box I did for my kids' puzzles. And I just overlapped it a little bit. And then this one, the easiest one. Glue, slap the
this is no cutting. This
fabric
is the no
on,
cutting
and
version.
then another layer of glue because, you know, if it's thin enough, the glue seeps through anyways. So you are for sure going to have that decoupage surface on it, whether you're trying to or not.
Absolutely. All right, so those are some other options if we don't do the pinking shear strips.
Right.
Okay, but since we are doing that, what's our next step once we've gotten that big strip cut out?
Is to cut the smaller strips. And again, I'm just going to, that's about how long I want it. I will just, you know, go from there. I'll eyeball it. I'm not worrying about the edges because those are most like whether they're, you know, facing the right way or not.
Those are going to be usually covered over anyway.
And I suppose, and I don't want to spend the time doing that on that, cutting this way and that on those. So you get a bunch of those cut up, which I have done. Now, another thing to note is your different kinds of fabrics, and some are going to be more see-through than others. And so there's more than one way to take care of that problem. One way is to paint your box with an acrylic paint so that you have a base color that will show through and not your box design. In my case, I just did 2 layers of fabric. I had more than enough fabric, and that actually that adds more strength to do that, and then I don't have to paint and mess with brushes and whatever. And then also you could just pick a fabric that's dark enough, or you know, whatever. You just give it a try and see if it shows through or not, and go from there. So now with our fabric all cut, our pieces, I'm gonna pour out a bunch of decoupage glue. So
do you pour out the whole bottle at once?
No, you do not.
No. Okay, tell me why you don't do that.
Well, it's runny, and so it's going to take longer to dry, but you might not need it all, and it's just easier. It's easier to work with less, and you know, it will start drying. So if your project is this huge one,
then if you do the whole bucket, then
Yeah.
you're just asking to have to buy
Yes.
more or make more, whatever it is that you're making. Okay.
And you want to pick one that, I mean, you can certainly clean it off. It's going to be a lot of work. I picked one that I don't have to work too hard because I don't care how it turns out. All right, so you got your strips. And I am going to keep the front of the fabric facing me, as I have learned over and over now. And I'm going to do it one at a time. That I was toying with, you know, dunking a bunch in because I'm all about saving time, except it does get messy, and then I did lose track of where the front of the fabric was. And so get it thoroughly covered, front and back.
So that's why you have to keep track ahead of time.
Yes.
Because you will not see it. Okay.
Yes. And then this is way too much glue, it will be too messy, and you don't need that much. So I just take 2 fingers, scrape it off there, you know, and then again, you don't have to be that exact, and apply it to my project. So I'm going to stick that one there, and I'm going to smooth it out, get rid of bubbles, and just really now is my chance to get it to look the way I want, because once it dries, it's pretty hard to peel off, to fix once it dries, other than to cover over with another layer.
All right, so if I'm going to do this.
Yes, sorry, I just, all right, here.
There you go.
Get kind of fast. I'm going to turn around and do that.
Okay.
All right.
So this isn't for somebody who likes to keep their hands neat. Okay, well, we will get over that then. All right, and get it all covered. Then I take 2 fingers and get the excess off.
Yep.
And then I put it willy-nilly on your project.
Yes.
And if it looks bad, you get blamed for it.
Oh,
I
yes.
love it. This works for me. This really works for me.
And then this too, I'm like experimenting with going at an angle. So then the only thing left once you get it all on there is those pesky, you know, edges or even the bottom. And the best way to deal with it is just to make sure to overlap. So you have some of the fabric going in the inside. You're going to start with, you know, your edge then will be nicely done, and you don't have any awkward pieces ending or sticking up. Or, and when I did my project with for the kids' puzzle pieces, I actually ended up hiding all the fraying that only happened on the ends for some reason. So you do that.
So as we're doing this, do you do the whole project at once? Do you is there an order to it? Do you do the ends, the bottom, or what does that look like?
Well, in the interest of keeping it easy, all you got to do is you got to probably do about half the project. To have a plan for leaving it so that one side is sitting on a surface to dry. And you don't want that surface to have decoupage. It'll stick to the newspaper, and then you'll have newspaper in your project. So I'm going to pick this whole side as my to-do later side, and then I would have 3 sides left that I could do. I will leave the edges. Oh. So yeah, I gotta do that perfect there. You know, I will probably end right about here, and then fix, you know, as I do this side, take care of the edges when I'm doing that. But definitely need to leave time to dry, which was hard for me to only do half because I wanted the project done. But it worked out well because my kids actually wanted to help, and they had fun doing it. And between the 3 of us, we were able to slap those pieces on, give it a day to dry. Maybe longer, but I find that it usually
24
dries.
hours.
Yeah, it dries.
Excellent.
Pretty fast in that.
So show us the original project which inspired this.
All right, going to
wipe using what we
yes,
got.
Yep.
All right.
All right, here is the piece that
inspired
it all.
It all.
Yes. Yep, and I just did a straight up and down. You know, there's no edges in here because, again, I just wanted to get it done. I like the look of it. This pattern, you don't even really see where it was cut. You know, this pattern worked really well for that. The inside, very rough looking. I didn't care. It was just, you know, the kids and I really saw it. There was, of course, more I or anyone else could do to, you know, put felt or another piece of fabric or, you know, anything you could do to make the inside nicer. I just wanted sturdy and useful cut-in handles because that's
nice.
What I needed.
Very nice. And how long you had it now?
Well, I was surprised. 2 years now.
2 years.
I thought I'm using a box and some glue. I don't know how long that will last. We'll see.
You think it would last about the same amount of time as most elementary
Yes.
school projects of the
Yes.
same materials,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Right.
So here we are, 2 years and it's still good. So
Oh, that's marvelous. Well, thank you so much, Amanda, for sharing this with us today. And we want to encourage anyone out there who has all of these materials at home to think about ways that you could use them to solve storage issues in ways that would create more resources for you to be generous with your community. If you'd like to hear more about Mosaic, our website is www.brooklynmosaic.org, or you can email us at brooklynmosaic@gmail.com. And if you would like to hear more about Amanda's crafting ideas, you can get a hold of us the same way. In the meantime, I'm Rachel, and this is Amanda, and we are saving the world one craft at a time.